So hi, my name is Dieter Pfosser and I'm a professor at the Department of Geography and Geoinformation Science, and I'm also a member of the Mason Data Lab. And in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the student contact network at the university and how it affects or could potentially affect COVID-19 spread at Mason. So since we do not have a vaccine and the only means we have right now to fight COVID-19 is to protect ourselves and to limit its spread. So cleaning hands, wearing masks, avoiding crowds and close contact with others, and working and studying in a clean environment are really the most important measures that we can take right now. Now, being a student on campus such as Mason, one of the measures or the most important measure that the university and you can take is limiting the contact with others. But that, of course, can be quite a challenge, walking around on campus or just going for lunch at JC or Ike's. Besides public spaces, dorms, and food courts, classrooms here are the places where we meet most of our fellow students and, what's more important, spend quite some time and in close contact with one another. The question that we want to answer is how class sizes affect the virus spread and more the potential of a virus spread. Specifically, we want to look at the so-called contact network, which is the number of fellow students one meets during a typical week on campus. We will look at how class size affects this contact network. The data that we use is the class enrollment from fall 2019. Now, in this semester, 32,000 students, roughly, were enrolled in 6,779 courses. In everything you're going to hear, keep in mind that this study only considers classes and students. So we do not talk about university employees and also don't consider places like dorms, dining facilities, and public transportation from and to university. So here's a basic representation of the data. So the data that we consider is enrollment information, which has students attending classes. So in the graph that you see here, for example, we have the course Accounting 203, and students attend this course. So we have here a pseudo ID, for example, 33932, that attends the accounting course. Using this class-student relationship information, we can now derive a contact network of students. So this network graph is quite similar to what you know from a social media network, such as the one created by Facebook or Instagram. Now, in our case, the student or a student knowing another student is merely based on the fact that they go to the same class. So what you see here is that, for example, this student and this student, they know each other because they're at least in one class on campus together. And this is how we can create this contact network of students at the university. So we will now analyze this network. Specifically, we will look at the question as to how this contact network changes when we change class sizes. The idea is that with smaller classes, students will meet fewer other students when on campus. Meeting fewer students also reduces the likelihood of meeting actually a student that might be sick and might be contagious. So let's look at some numbers. On average, a GMU student meets 171 other students during a typical week of classes. This number actually varies with the major and college a student is affiliated with. Consider, for example, the College of Education and Human Development. So their students have the lowest number of contacts with only 56. On the other hand, you have the College of Science. That's, for example, my college, and students there meet on average 217 students when going to class throughout the typical week. Now, again, keep in mind that this is the data for 31,000 students that are enrolled in face-to-face classes, roughly 6,800 of them, on the Fairfax campus in 2019. So now let's look at class sizes. So this table actually shows that if we transition 18 classes that have an enrollment of 200 or more to online, so that's this row here, and we have 18 classes that have an enrollment larger than 200 in Fairfax, then the degree or the contact network for each student actually goes down to 138. So we have 138 students that you typically meet throughout your week on campus. So this number is down from 171 if in the case where we wouldn't have those large courses online. Moving all classes that have now an enrollment of 100 or more online. So this is this row here. Reduces the number further to 107. So 77 courses have an enrollment that is larger than 100. Moving them online reduces the number of contacts from 171 to 107. Now, this table shows that by moving classes larger than 25 students online, so this is the last row down here, the number of contacts for each student can actually be reduced to 24. This would mean that 1,610 courses moving online, because those are the courses that have an enrollment of larger than 25, which is roughly 24% of all face-to-face courses at Mason, at least during the fall 2019 semester, reduces the number of people you run into as a student from 171 to 24. So this is one of the first insights that I would like to mention. Now, converting or translating this table into a graph, we can plot the number of courses moved online in relationship to a reduction of a node degree in our contract network graph. So here, the orange line shows you the degree, the node degree of students, and the blue line shows you the courses that are moved, or the number of courses that are moved online. So we have initially 171 node degree, 0 courses are online. In the extreme case, as we saw before, 1,601 courses are online. The degree goes down to 24. We can break down this number also in terms of colleges. So far we have been talking for the university as a whole, but what happens to students that are enrolled in specific majors in particular colleges? So what are the colleges that would be affected the most by a reduction in class size? Initially, the College of Science has the highest node degree, and CEHD has the lowest. So here we have College of Science, and here we have Education. So moving 70 courses with an enrollment greater than 200 online has now the Shaw School of Policy and Government with the highest node degree. So we started with College of Science, but removing those 17 courses with high enrollment suddenly has the Shaw School in the lead, and College of Science, well, very close by, the degree there dropped to 170. Now, removing all courses with enrollments greater than 100 puts now business in contention for the college with the highest node degree for its students. So it is 149. Comparatively, the Shaw School, 110, College of Science, previously the lead, 105. Of course, the Shaw School and College of Science, so those are the two colleges that were affected the most by reducing large courses. Now, Education has now dropped to 38, to a node degree of 38. So we started with 56 here, Education, and it was really just modestly affected so far by moving these large enrollment courses online. Now, the complete table shows the number for all colleges for all cases when moving all classes with enrollments of greater than 25 online. So here we have 200, 100, 50, 40, 30, and finally courses larger than 25 online, and you have the corresponding numbers in the rows for each of the colleges. In this case, business, for example, has the smallest note degree of only 11. Most colleges have degrees in the 20s and 30s, and this means that, for example, a cost student meets typically 34 students during the week in taking face-to-face classes on campus. Shown as a graph, the trends of the colleges are more obvious. Big gains for some colleges initially, since they're offering the biggest classes. So we are looking, for example, at the College of Science, which is orange. But all settle eventually in the 20 to 40 degree range. Now, looking at the note degree from a school year and degree perspective, we see that freshmen have the highest number of contacts. 346 is twice as much as the university range. So a typical freshman runs into 346 fellow students during a week on campus. The university average is 171. Thus, reducing the number of contact and class sizes, especially for this group, will be quite important. So reducing class sizes affects freshmen the most, and for graduate students who start with lower numbers, comparatively little. So here we have master's and doctoral students. You see that they start out, for example, master students with 33 note degree and end up with 20 for smaller classes. And that's because those grad students, in any case, they are taking smaller classes. Freshmen, of course, are affected the most. They start with 346 and end up with 39 for the case of all classes larger than 25 being offered online. Again, showing the same information as a graph reveals that this drop based on class size reduction is quite evident. Interestingly, seniors are most affected by moving classes with a size of around 40 online. So those are seniors. And you see here, there is a comparatively large drop when we move classes with sizes of around 40 online. Again, this is expected as the classes students take towards the end of their studies are more specialized and are smaller. A third way of looking at the student contact network is by when students are on campus. So this table has two basic columns: the number of students before 4 p.m. So those are typically undergraduate students, and the students after 4 p.m. So those are grad students. On Monday, for example, 17,528 students are on campus before 4 p.m. This is, of course, all based on class enrollment. And 10,559 students are on campus after 4 p.m. So those are our typical grad students. Sizable student populations. Now, moving all classes with an enrollment of greater than or equal to 25 online. So those are those two columns. The number of students is reduced to 8,106. So 17,000 without reduction, and moving courses online, 8,106. In the afternoon, there are 4,317 students. Essentially, we have a reduction by half. It is also interesting to see that there is a sizable number of students on campus on Fridays as well. So down here. This is at least in the morning after 4 p.m. Only 700 make it out to Fairfax and on campus. And this is the chart that tells us now what it all means. So how would a note degree or the number of students that we meet in class affect our chances of getting infected with COVID-19, provided that they're infected student on campus? So the colors that you see here represent different numbers of infected people in the GMU student population. Each colored graph then represents the probability of meeting an infected person based on the size of a meeting. In our case, size or meeting size refers to the number of students one encounters in class throughout a week. So what does this mean now? Let's assume out of 32,000 students, 200 students are infected and can potentially spread the virus. This means in this, we are looking at the orange line. So this is this line here. 200 students infected. Assuming a student meets a global average of 174 students here, then the chance of meeting an infected student is the intersection, which is above 60%, 65%. Of course, this does not mean that one would get sick, but only tells us that there is 60% chance of running into an infected student in one of your classes. Assuming only 10 students are infected, so this is the line down here, and the Mason student runs into 174 students during their week, then this student has here a 5% chance of running actually into an infected student. So social distancing, washing hands, and wearing masks would of course limit that chance of actually getting infected in each case. So now let's see how reducing class size affects these probabilities. Moving all classes with an enrollment of 25 or larger online, and assuming that there are 200 infected students on campus. So this is running into 24 students, assuming that all classes 25 or larger are online. And this is our curve of 200 infected students. The probability of meeting one of them is around 12%. So this is down from 60%, which we had previously. We've only 10 infected students, so that's down here. The probability is now actually close to 0. The message of this chart is that by reducing the class size, we reduce the number of students, people we meet on campus. Should some of them be infected, it also reduces the risk of meeting those infected students in class. Combined with physical distancing, wearing masks, cleaning your hands frequently, and providing a clean classroom environment, those measures will provide for a safe environment on campus. So thanks for listening, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.